All right, so I'm Teressa. I'm from 94.5 The Buzz, and I'm happy to be here with these ladies, the Ghost Hunting Beauties. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yes, hi everybody, I'm Angela. I am the founder of Ghost Hunting Beauties.
Hello, I am Jenny, and I am just enjoying our adventures.
I'm Lisa. I'm the BOI of the group, and like Jenny, I'm just enjoying the adventures along for the ride.
Hi, I'm Isa. I'm one of the newest members along with Lisa here. So we're very excited to have joined this amazing team here.
How many ghost adventures do you, what's the schedule? Do you guys do one once a week, once a month?
Oh man, when we're filming, we try to keep it like quarterly if possible, but sometimes we're like bam, bam, going, because we end up having to do this like in 24 hours sometimes, so we're not sleeping.
Yeah. And there's no shortage of places to go in Texas. Do you guys go all over?
There's way too many places in Texas, it seems like, but we do probably stay in like the 4-hour radius of Houston. I think our furthest was Yorktown, which was the best place.
There was a national list that just came out where it was like the most haunted cities in all of the country, and Yorktown was like number 2. I had to Google it because I did not know where it was in Texas and the stories behind it. What is it? A hospital in Yorktown or?
Yes.
Right now. So what? The description said, you can hear wheelchairs and all this stuff. Tell us a little bit about that because I did not know you guys had gone there. That's
the hospital was built by nuns because there was not a hospital nearby. The nearest one was in San Antonio. And once they built it, they did help a lot with the patients and stuff. But then I don't know when it turned into a rehabilitation center.
It was the 80s.
In the 80s.
Yeah,
and then it was shut down.
In the 90s.
In the 90s. In the 90s.
So it's just abandoned now, right?
Yeah, it's crazy because when you go in it feels like it's been abandoned for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But the last time they had patients was in 1990s, and I'm like, this is just crazy. I mean, I highly recommend go if you're able to, just to get the opportunity. It's 5,000 square foot, and like every room, just you get an eerie feeling for sure.
So what was one of the moments? Tell us one of the holy crap moments.
It's like, that's why they're looking at me. I was like, it's always me. Everyone's like, we're a team. And the next thing you know, I'm in the dark by myself. Everyone's left me. See, it's the blondes. You wonder why we trip and fall, and when the first one's dead.
In the movies, you're the ones that go
I'm
first.
the first one.
You're the ones that always go first.
I'm always left. Right? That's how it happens. So we had moments in there that, I'm always skeptical even though we've done this for a while.
Yeah.
Always skeptical. But when I went in, daytime, it was one thing. It was first my husband and I were filming just, when you see shows, they do something called B-roll. You're looking at the hallway, you're looking at things. Next thing you know, there's a nurse that walks past me and I can't move because I'm like, there's a nurse. And he's like, oh, okay. Doesn't affect him.
No.
And then she just keeps walking as if she's still alive, doing her duty. Like she's going into a cabinet. She's doing her
Do you think she's
regular
aware
duty.
that you're there?
No, that one was residual, thank goodness. So I wasn't too scared of her, but it's daytime. This is supposed to happen at night in the movies. Daytime you're safe.
And it was very dynamic. I mean, it was just very, very scary, very creepy. At one point, I had gone down in the basement, and we were with another paranormal team, and he was kind of getting a little angry, like calling the demons out, which you should be very respectful at all times. So that was probably the scariest moment for me because he was, just shouting out anger, like, come on out, we're here to attack you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's pitch black.
It's like poking the
And
ghost
you're not
bear.
supposed to do that. And we did feel something because he's talking about some kind of dynamic monster that lives out in the basement. And so that was my scaredest moment out of all the ghost hunting places we've
And
been.
Lisa saw stuff.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So that was actually my first ghost hunt was Yorktown.
Wow, that was your first one.
Yes, and it's something in my family. It's just baptized by fire with everything I do, everything I try. And so whenever I first joined, I was like, I can do the research and development because I'm a former history teacher, I'm a historian, all this other stuff. And so I went online. I'm looking at the Yorktown, trying to find the archives online through their library, which are non-existent. So I call and they say, oh, well, it's all on microfiche, which if you were born, if you were born after electricity was invented, microfiche is this very teeny tiny print that you have to go through. And it's, so I was like, okay, well, I can just make the drive. And then all of a sudden, the librarian's like, oh, well, hold on a minute. Let me send you to our neighbor library, our sister library, which is in Cuero. And so I'm like, okay. She puts me on hold, actually transfers the call, and then I start getting a runaround. And, as someone who's had to do some, background research on a few bad dates, I tried the internet dating once, but I really, the red flag started coming up. And so basically it was, oh, well, you're here to do something at the hospital. We don't have anything for you. This town just popped up today. We have no history. And
It's like out of a movie.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, the stuff that I was able to find, because I was able to look in the state registry of deaths. And the thing is, the big thing about that hospital is that the head doctor/surgeon/president of the hospital, in his first few years of being there was an inordinate amount of deaths. And we're talking triple digits in just a few years. And in a community of that size, given even the large area that they served, it was still statistically very anomalous. And, it was just something was going on.
Yeah.
And in one of the sessions, Issa and I did, experience something that, can't really get into it because you have to watch the show. But I will say that it was a young relative of someone who was a pillar of the community who, essentially died on the doorstep, ringing the doorbell in the middle of the night at the hospital. I mean, just very tragic. But that in that building, I'll tell you what, that's the first time I have ever shined a flashlight. And I'm talking one of those, military grade flashlights that James has, it's like brighter than the wrath of God. And I shine it down a hallway and the hallway got darker. And that was my time to drink, but we didn't have communion beforehand. Probably would have helped.
Some holy water.
But yeah, I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, and I'm the skeptic of the group. So
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm the
Okay.
skeptic of the group, and I was,
It's only fair. It makes sense.
it was something. But I'll tell you that, being baptized by fire after that, I was like, okay, bring it on,
Now it got easy, didn't it? Now it got easy.
So in your experience, because I have this horrific paranormal, I lived in a very scary haunted house where I moved out after we had a full-on investigation. So that opened my eyes to what it feels like when you have a bad and a good presence near you.
Yes.
Being in here, I feel like electrocuted right now. Do you guys feel like a bunch of energy in here? Because it's vibing through me hardcore.
100%. When we got here earlier, as soon as I walked into the bathroom, I'm like, not yet.
It's crazy. So I'll tell my story because I wanted to get their take on it from all the ghost hunting they did. So I'm originally from Kansas City, and you guys could Google the War of Westport. Okay, so Westport is like Galveston, old. It's old. So we lived in this house. I was living with a boyfriend, and it was very old, but we were living it, and we started doing demo. And that's when
that makes sense.
the demo, all of a sudden, things just started being weird. One little thing was I had my wallet in the bathroom, just vanished. So I was like, that happens to us all the time.
Oh, man.
Simple stuff.
Yeah.
And then some of the hot spots, one night we had an ADT system that was disconnected. The wires were cut. And at 1:30 in the morning, it went off.
Ooh.
So that was our what the hell is going on right now? And it actually makes me shake because he was like, it must just be a trip, something maybe is wired and we didn't know it. So he goes down there, couldn't get it figured out, rips it off the wall. And he's the skeptic. And I was like, something's weird, it's not right. So then a couple days later, we demoed the kitchen. All the walls are gutted and it smells like smoke. There was a fire apparently that happened to the house, which we recognized. And then one day I came home and I walked into the kitchen, and my boyfriend walked in the living room next to us, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Why are you home? And nobody answered me.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, hello, I'm talking to you. And I walked in there, and no one was in there. And he was not home at all. And he was like, I called him. I'm like, where are you at? He goes, I'm at the radio station. He was another radio person. And I was like, who the hell just walked in the living room? And I freaked out and like ran out to the porch. And I was like, you need to come home right now because somebody's in the house. I thought it was a physical person in the house. So we worked like a block away, and he came home and he's like, nobody's here. And I was like, I'm telling you right now, it was like noon, bright daylight like this. I was like, somebody walked past, and I heard the footsteps. And he's like, I don't know what it could be. So then the next like couple days, I had, being in radio, I had headshots. So I had like a stack of photos. And I walked up to the bedroom, and they were scattered all over the room. And I was like, what the hell? And so I call him again. I'm like, did you throw my photos everywhere? He's like, I don't even know where they're at. Wow. And I'm like, something's going on in this house. And then we just kept hearing clunks and noises. And whenever I was around, it would happen. Not when he was around. It was
interesting.
So when it was
it was just me, to where I would hear things in the middle of the night, and I was like, I'm done with this. So he was a radio personality. I was like an intern. So we talked about it, and this woman, and I don't remember her name, but she was an investigator with a full paranormal team. Yeah. They would hire her to like look for lost children and stuff. So they knew he was on the radio, and they offered their assistance. So they came to our house one night and set up cameras and microphones all over the house. And they blocked off upstairs so that we couldn't go up there. And it was like, midnight, of course. Midnight. They want it to be at midnight. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on, So we hang out all night. They've got the reading thing. I mean, like everything is, they got all the stuff. And we do the whole investigation, and at like 2 a.m, they wrap it up, and then they sent us you get like a report the next day, or like maybe it took like a week. But the report was there were 3 entities in the home. One was a female who was living upstairs in the spare bedroom, and you could hear her whispering. And I was like, well, I want to know, but I'm scared to know because I lived there. So we heard the audio recording, and you could hear her like saying, go, go, go.
Oh, that's not good.
And I was like, this broad does not like me. She wants me out of this house, and I will oblige. I literally was like, no worries for me. And then during the actual investigation, they walked us around. So we had a basement, and there was like an old wine cellar. And when you go down, the woman immediately said, there's a soldier in here. And I was like, okay. And she goes, that's the person you saw. He roams the bottom floor.
Interesting.
And
on duty.
He was on duty. So, I was like, did he want something? And she's like, he has no idea you guys are here.
Yep.
He has no idea. So we went down, and it was like an old wine cellar, and just like any basement in a house like this. It's creepy. It smells like, it's not functioning. We never used it. So we go down, and she goes, put your hand. It was like a corner. And I put my hand there, and it's this cold, like pin needles. It's almost like you put your hand in a thing of nails. And I was like, they were like, he's crouched down there hiding. Oh. He was in a little like fetal position, hiding with like his gun. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to interrupt him. So she's like, he doesn't know we're here. We're just going to let him go. He's at peace. Like, he's not something negative. Yeah. But then upstairs was the negative. Some female, we don't know if she was a widow or what the deal was, but she did not like me. And so the whole investigation, there was orbs everywhere, which orbs are basically everywhere. And, once we gutted the walls, they said that activated everything. And I literally,
their environment.
I moved out the next day. I moved out. I packed my crap, and I went to live with my mom, and I was like, our relationship wasn't the best anyway, but I was like, you're like, this is a sign. Either she was telling me, girl, go.
Maybe
no
that's
good.
what she was telling you. She was saying, go from him, not her.
He was a horrible, boyfriend. He cheated, and he was, so I was like, years later, I was like, I think she was telling me to get the hell out to save myself.
Exactly.
And I literally had a cat at the time somebody gave me, and the cat was always hissing and swatting the air. I packed my crap and left. And I never went back. We ended up breaking up, and I was like, so that was where you could feel all everything. So it's just wild like that. So with that being said, do you walk into a place when you're ghost hunting and feel that cold like energy or
Oh, yeah.
smell the weird smells? Like
All the time. I used to have, I would smell pipe smoke. So my grandfather used to smoke a pipe. And then every now and then I'm just sitting there and I don't smoke and my husband doesn't smoke. And every now and then, this just speaks to his character, I'd smell the pipe smoke and like high karate cologne.
nice.
And I was like, I know I didn't buy my husband any high karate. Do they still
cologne.
make that? And I was like, and I'm smelling that. And I was like, oh, he's just here. So it's a calming presence.
Yeah.
So a lot of times that you'll experience, I think they're just letting you know that they're here. And they'll go with what's familiar to you. So they may use the olfactory senses, your sense of smell. They might, a lot of times people go, well, how come I can't see my grandmother or my mother or someone close to me? Because they know that might scare you. And the last thing someone does who loves you doesn't want to scare you. So you were hearing her saying, go. She was just trying to go, girlfriend, go.
Yeah, I was like,
Girlfriend,
she
go.
wants me dead. She
Girl.
wants my man, and I'm out of here. Like, I don't know.
Right?
Like, maybe she didn't like me.
She saw what was coming.
And then later, they
she
said
probably
that
saw what was coming
I think
for
they
you.
deducted, and they did an actual history check on the house, so they could tell who lived there back in like 1920, even earlier than that. And it was a soldier, and they think it might have been his widow that still occupied the house because she died. I think she died in the house of old age eventually, but she was young when they like deducted all the whispering and stuff. She didn't sound like an elderly lady, and she was in like the spare bedroom. She wasn't in our master bedroom, but yeah. So that was one of two moments, but that was like one of the scariest situations where I was like,
I can imagine. Was that your first time experiencing that?
that was my first time. And
Yeah.
Kansas City is very much like Galveston in that way. There's a lot of history. There's an old red light district in Kansas City where all the hookers hookered, like Galveston. It's the same situation. And we lived in a townhouse where we could tell there was definitely something there. But then once you kind of get into it, like you ladies would know, you get used to it. So you're not like running like Scooby-Doo episode where you're like
But when
flying.
you're living with it, that's a little
Living with
different.
it is a little
you know?
different,
And
so-
now, when you moved out, did your boyfriend stay, or did he
He
move
stayed.
out? He stayed. And did he have any? I guess, did you have any contact with him? I'm just curious if
no.
it continued, or did it leave when you left?
She's like, girl, I ain't talking to him.
I didn't talk to him. They ended up finishing the house. I think there was another small fire, but that was, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the basis, but they finished the house. He sealed it up, and I don't know. I actually never stuck around to ask. Like, I mean, I really feel like she was like, you gotta go.
That's interesting you mentioned the fires because Old Town Spring, I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with Old Town Spring, that they say that if you start doing certain things, if you mess with the trees or anything that's very sacred there, that things will catch fire. So you will hear a lot of fires where there's no electricity, nothing that would make it cause a fire, and they have fires there. So that's why a lot of times you said you started renovating. I think it's almost like they're already there. So when you come in and you start changing their environment.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
Because imagine you waking up one day and somebody's sitting there in your kitchen, but they're not even cooking for you. They're just messing with your stuff. And you're like, get out of my kitchen. And it's like,
She said that the minute we gutted those walls, and it was gutted, it looked like this with literally no drywall at all. She's like, that like brought them over into, we mixed like through the veil, I guess you would want to say, to where, but she didn't think that, the soldier, she said, had no idea I was there. He was
Right.
still in war mode.
that's a residual haunting. So those are the ones that aren't aware, like the nurse. The nurse was literally almost like replaying. So you get a glimpse of history.
That's crazy to me. Because she was like, he thinks he's in war, he's hiding right now.
He does.
That's just, it's completely wild. That's insane.
I love it. But at least you got to experience that. Some people never get to have a paranormal experience. That's why with our show, a lot of people are like, I am not going ghost hunting. So I was like, so we like to take people on the adventures, make it a little fun. Not everything is scary. Ghosts are not always scary, but it's when it's your first time.
Yeah,
There's no other reaction but
I
that
would ghost
reaction.
hunt, and then after that, I was like, I don't know. Is it true that can you bring like a presence with you? Like, could
Yes.
something leave with you? That's what I was scared about.
Yes, I have one that actually follows me on the ghost hunts. That I actually went to an antique shop, which is our season 2, episode 2, that I found out that's where he came from. So I bought something from there. He came to my house. He's not much of a problem, except for through the spirit box one time, you hear this voice go, kill your husband. And my husband's shaking his head over there. That's him. He goes, fat chance of that.
Wow.
And I went, okay. So sometimes, it's different. It's kind of like when you go to a different environment, you feel different. When you go to the beach, you dress and act different. When you're on the other side, you feel and act different. And we don't have any of that experience until that's our time. So how do we know what they're seeing or feeling?
So I read something once because that changed my perspective of everything. And so I am Italian, and my grandma always said, your great grandma had a thing. And I was like, what is the thing? She's
It must
like,
be an Italian thing.
she's like, I think you have a thing. I guess I've always like talked about seeing stuff, and my parents thought I was crazy. And I'm just like, well, I don't want this thing because I don't know what to do with it. And then I think after so many times, you just kind of come to peace with it. But I read somewhere that, and you may not know the answer to this, I had this old mirror I bought from eBay that was, who knows, I buy like antique phones from like the 1920s. Yeah. So I bought this mirror that is so old. I got it on Montrose. Who knows how old it is. And I read once that could harbor spirits in it.
Yes.
So you want
yes.
to, yeah.
So I brought the damn thing in my house,
Yeah,
and it's just
actually-
hanging up on the wall.
I've got a one of the like electric makeup mirror, lighted mirror that I just salvaged out of a neighbor's house, late neighbor. And it's in my garage right now because I've not cleansed it. But yeah, that's something that I've learned you want to be careful about because it can, especially if you've got more mirrors, like if they're, because they can feed off each other.
Don't have them facing each other.
Right, yeah. So there's that. But I mean, yeah,
One's fine. Yeah, the other ones are new. None of them are facing each other. That's interesting.
Yes.
I do cleanse though every time I move into a new house.
You do.
I do cleanse.
How do you cleanse?
I use sage, but I also do the little verbal ritual, like, nothing but white light here, nothing negative. You can be here, but if you're a negative entity, you're not welcome.
Correct.
And my husband thinks I'm like batshit
Really?
crazy. Oh yeah.
Oh, man. Until something gets
Batshit
him.
crazy. And to this day, I'm like, I'll sense something, and he's just like, I'm sure it's nothing. And I'm like, I don't know. I've had so many experiences that I'm not quite sure what the hell is. Yeah. I think I've kind of accepted it at this point where I'm like, I think I would know if something's creepy. Like if I'll smell smoke in my house now, and I have a newer home. It's only built in 2000, but if I go somewhere, we had a girlfriend who lived in the Elder Street apartments downtown, which is horrifically haunted. It's an old children's hospital.
I didn't know that.
And we, so
Because
that's
I
how
write
I
it
met her. And yeah, if you guys have not gone down there, it's insane. She lived there, she managed it, and she was like, it's haunted. I'm just gonna let you know. And I was like, sounds good. Like I have nothing I'm not used to. And we were at a party once, and everyone it's an artist community, so everyone knows to respect the space. You can still see like the hospital lines down the hallway. They've converted it all into apartments, but it's still very like unique to what it looks like a hospital. And so we were at a party once, and a girlfriend of mine was like, I'm not making this up, I swear to you. Follow me.
We all believe you.
That one of my girlfriends was like, can I talk to you in the hallway? And I was like, yeah. And we're drinking beer. No one's like drunk. And she's like, there's a little boy telling me to follow him. And I was like,
Oh.
and I was like, okay. Because she knows I'm the friend that is not going to commit her. And I'm like, okay, well, she's like, he's telling me to go down to the hallway. So we tell my friend who runs it, she's like, that's the spot where we can't keep residents. They keep moving out.
Oh.
And he was trying to guide us to this lower level, and we did not go. We were like, hard pass, thank you, but no. And like you would see balls rolling on the floor for no reason, and you could hear giggles every once in a while since it was a children's hospital. They had like a TB, like a tuberculosis wing where the little kids would go outside and play on the roof. Back in the day.
Because the sunlight was supposed to help you, a lot of the vitamin D. So that's, I think, the same in the Stanley, in the same area, that they were always opening up the sunlight and that people were getting better. Because, I mean, you didn't have a lot of modern medicine back then.
Right. So that was another one, but I'm just...
Well, you've had quite a bit of experience.
I
That's
know.
why.
I think it's an Italian thing because I'm Italian as well. So my grandmother,
Someone told me
they
that.
always said my grandmother had a thing too. So
My
it's like
grandmother had a
really,
thing.
I
Yeah.
think in a lot of cultures it becomes more prominent. But I think we're all, even with all backgrounds, we all have different spiritual connections somehow. All the way back from Native American ancestry. You've got people, Germans. Like everybody has different cultures. To where we used to talk to our ancestors more, and now it's like, oh, it's so spooky, and that used to be a common thing, and especially like the Hispanic culture, like they can tell you about that with, with the Dia de los Muertos. So,
Am I talking about Dia de los Muertos? So that's a Hispanic culture. I don't know if there's any Hispanics here.
Yeah.
Girls have to give her a megaphone.
I know.
It's still celebrated. It's more of a down south, more down south Mexico tradition. Where my family's from is North Mexico, so we do kind of like celebrate it, but not as much. But it's something as a little girl, I didn't know what was happening, what it was, but now I'm more aware of it, and I'm like, okay, it makes complete sense because it's just a day of remembrance of your loved ones. You put out a candle, you put out maybe their favorite things that they used to love in life, and that's how you remember them on that one. Of course, you remember them every day, but it's a special day that you remember them on, and I haven't heard any stories in my family of anybody appearing at that point when they were doing it. But yeah, that's a tradition.
What would you guys say with all the places, I guess, in the greater Houston area? You mentioned Spring. What are some of the, hot spots, that you would say have a lot of things?
Some of the hot spots, let's see. There's a lot of hot spots. The Rice Hotel was renovated, so that started stirring up a lot of activity. We had an early episode that we didn't get to even air it because we were investigating and it errored all of our equipment. Yeah. So she was there for that one. Remember when the little girl ran past us? That was the Hearsay Gastro. Now that one is before we got there. Before we got there, there was a lady.
That. Oh my gosh!
If you're ever eating there,
I ate there once. Oh my gosh!
There was a woman that ran out of the bathroom screaming because the little girl had just appeared to her. And at first it didn't scare her until she turned around and the little girl was gone. So then she runs out screaming. And that was the day before we got there. But a lot of my theory is that they were all made up of energy. So a lot of times, if you've ever seen on ghost shows or if you ever see they flicker the lights or they do things with your television because they're borrowing energy. So I think that's why a lot of times we're experiencing something like that. So our audio equipment is errored. We have video cameras errored. And then we're like, well, there went the entire episode.
Everything
You can't hear
was
anything.
Wiped out. And there were a lot of children in Hearsay and a lot of the wait staff. In the bathroom, there was activity. The manager had told us numerous times that things have gone like moving chairs, slamming things in the bathroom. And we were just sitting there and we heard children giggling. The back door slammed and it was about 3 a.m. And I'm very skeptical as well. I'm like, it could have been, some employee came or, someone's back there.
Yeah.
And we checked nothing. Because I'm always cautious. I'm like, I always think it could have been this. But when everything was wiped out, and I could vividly hear children giggling, talking in Hearsay.
Is there a place you guys won't go in fear it'll be too much?
I bet, look, they're all looking at me.
You went to Yorktown. That is literally the national.
I literally did not want to go to Yorktown. I got talked into Yorktown because I like the lighter side of the paranormal. I think ghosts, are just people. So if you're not afraid of people, then you should be okay. But when you start getting into demonic things and dark things, that's just not my jam. My grandmother, I'm sure, your grandmother was all about, no thank you. It's like we talk to our ancestors, but not demonics. And Yorktown was seriously.
Yorktown was scary, but I want to go back just because now we're prepared.
You gonna go by yourself?
I do want to go.
You gonna be there by yourself?
You're not going to go back?
Nope, because it followed me home. So it took a famous priest. I won't say his name, but he actually had to bless my house. He works with the Vatican, like that higher level, to get it out of my house. Now, my husband is also an extreme skeptic, but he's like you. He's like, wait, what's going on here? The chair starts spinning in his office. No one's in there. We have a toilet. Now the toilets don't slam. A lot of times they just kind of
slowly glide down.
Oh, it was slamming. And there were times he's not home, and I'm brave. I've been doing this for a while. I've been my house has been haunted since I was a kid. Yeah. This is a newer build. So I'm sitting there going, oh, no. I'm like you. I'm like, who is in this house? So I'm calling him going, did you come home?
You have limits to the ghost
I have
thing.
limits. I'm like, please don't. I was like, if you're going to be a ghost in my house, do laundry.
You sound like me. That's what I do.
Make me something, or at least give me great advice. I was hoping your spirit was going to be like, hey, girlfriend, positive affirmations. Tell me my hair looks good today. That's the kind of stuff I'm into. If something tells me you're going to die, I'm like, no, I'm done with this. But But we had Yorktown followed me home. So that's why I recommend that if you're all interested in the paranormal, make sure that you do, like you said, the rituals, whatever works for you. Everyone says we all have our certain rituals. Yeah. This girl right here, she was the smart one. She put all the stuff around her car.
So
You have the rituals.
Do you do like the salt? Like, is that a thing?
So I kind of made my own blend because I'm like Sicilian and Sicilian, Italian, and everything too. But so I will say Yorktown was the first time ever, and I realized it about 15 minutes after I left. It's the first time I'd ever done what my great grandmother used to do, which was a toy. I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God, and I'm like, and then I started to turn back. So I'm like, was she there? Was my great grandmother, there? Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, do I need to go back and round her up? What do I do? But I've done my research and everything. Again, I'm kind of a nerd, but I had my blend, my black salt that I made myself, and my black salt and my eggshells and all of that stuff, and then I had my sage and Palo Santo, and I went around the car, and this was before I got there. I stopped at the Quickie Mart down the street, did in and out of the car, and myself. When we got there, I again put a boundary around my car. We went to the Quickie Mart for a bathroom stop, and then before we came back, I told Ethan, like, don't get out of the car yet. And she's like, what are you doing, weirdo?
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. But and it was, I just didn't really think anything of it and I had to be the first one to leave because of just parental stuff. And I don't know, it was about half an hour out, and it just felt like I had been, if you've ever towed a boat or something like that with your vehicle, that you can feel that drag,
like the pull. Yeah.
But it was like I didn't realize I had that drag until I hit like about the half hour point, and then it just felt even like the car was lighter, and so that was weird. But then whenever Angela called me, I guess it was a week or two later, just to say, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay? And all this other jazz. I'm like, I'm fine. Why? And then that's when she told me about what followed her home, and it went from there.
Right? I'm telling you, that's why everybody wants to jump into the paranormal. It is fun. It's exciting. It's great to, their spirits. I'm going to mess with people when it's my time. When I'm on the other side, for sure.
It's payback
For
time.
Sure. It's going to be, I always say, if you're petty in this life, you're probably petty in the afterlife.
That's hilarious. Does anybody here have any, because I was going to say, let's say somebody feels like you can tell the difference between a negative entity and someone who's just hanging out, living life with you.
Yes.
What are some of the signs that there could be like a negative, dark presence around you?
I can tell you, for example, with Yorktown is that, now I've got the Italian temper. I've got a lot of fire.
Same.
My poor husband. But a lot of times if you're acting out of character, then you know that you're probably in a more dark presence. Because a lot of people, think about it, you are who you surround yourself with. So if you're around a lot of people who are doing drugs, you're going to probably be the next drug addict. Like if you're around people who are, in a good mood all the time, then you're around a great fun group, you'll feel happy. Well, with dark presence, you're going to start feeling possibly even physically ill, mentally ill, off balance. You can feel dizzy, nauseated. That's why I tell people, it throws you off balance. So we had a presence that was, I like to go to the locations before I send anyone in because I want to make sure everyone's safe. So since Yorktown was supposed to be so dark, I'm like, I'm going to see this for myself. So next thing you know, we take out, we had a Ghost Tube app, Ghost Tube Vox, and things were coming through. So if this is just an entertaining app, how do they know what one of the crew members, what his name is? They started shouting out his name, his occupation. And we're like, oh, okay. So I'm going, ha, he's going to get you. And he goes, no, I'm coming for you. And then I turn to look at the box and I feel different. I'm starting to feel angry. Because I mean, what do you mean you're coming for me? Because I'm a girl, you should know. Somebody says I'm coming for you. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. So I said, oh, bring it. And then next thing you know, I'm like shouting expletives, not nice words. I will save that so y'all don't have to hear that. But I was really feeling angry. And then he's like, ha, mocking me. And then my hat gets yanked off of my head and thrown. And I start screaming like mad. And I'm going, oh, do you want to come at me? Then you come at me. And I'm screaming. And then my husband's going, what is going on with this woman I married? He's flying around the corner. He's dragging me out. And I was instantly okay. And I went, oh, God, what was that? And he goes, are you okay? And I said, I don't know. I said, I was mad. I was ready to fight people. And it's because this presence, this was rumored that this was a priest who did very unkind things to the females and the nuns who lived there. And I didn't like him. I was ready to fight him. I was like, I'll fight you in the afterlife. I'll fight you in this life. I'm ready to go. But that you are usually affected. That's why when people live with dark entities and you feel that, they can totally affect your entire life.
That makes sense because the Elder Street apartments and my friend Bridget here, we had the same friend. It was all a children's hospital. So there was nothing negative, nothing bad happened except for these poor children, you know, many died in there. So there was never like a fear. They're just, things roll down the hallway, you know, a lot of. We were never scared to be
You
there.
witnessed it as well when you were there. Did you witness anything? You felt it.
Cold spots.
Yeah.
And chills and energy. Never anything that
That was like
oh, I shouldn't.
scary or dark.
It
Yeah.
was like interesting.
Right.
Like cool.
But there was
Yeah.
some kind of eerie vibe
But we've
for sure.
been on other places where it was like, I don't know.
Yep. For
Yeah,
sure.
you
It
can
can make
just
you
feel it.
physically ill.
What how many episodes do you guys have on your, or what's like the one that everyone here, and I know we're gonna post this, like which one should they look at first? Like what do you?
I say go back to season 1 for Demon's Road because it's entertaining. It's a lot of fun. Demon's Road has a lot of folklore, a lot of fun
That
stuff.
does not sound fun.
It was, to me, a cemetery is peaceful. I love cemeteries. A lot of people, I'm very drawn to them. I feel at peace there. But there's so many rumors of people who've seen dark things. I think it's a lot of what people bring to it. Like people have done dark rituals there because they're like, you know, kids. They do
Yeah.
Ouija boards, all these things.
And when we were there were a lot of teenagers that came up just to see it. I mean, kind of mess with the spirits.
And I ended up doing a full reading on someone, which that was, I don't know how they came to me and they go, so you're a medium. I mean, we have an entire group of people and they grabbed me and I did a full reading. Full reading with somebody. But
How did that? So okay. You just intrigued me there because there is another story I have.
ooh,
When I first moved to Houston, when I was on the morning show, we did like a health week. So Rod, those of you that listen to the show, sent me out to, her name was Miss Joyce. She's still around. She lives in Rosenberg. She does like water colonics and wellness stuff. We wanted to interview her. So he's like, go see what she's about. She was in Uptown at the time. So I was like, yeah, all right. So I went with one of my girlfriends who was on the show just to interview her, to get some info so we can have her on as a guest. And she's the sweetest woman ever. And we're in the middle of a conversation. She's like, I don't mean to scare you right now, but someone's talking to me. And I was like, whoa, what? So apparently Miss Joyce, she was diagnosed with colon cancer years ago and was practically flatlined, and she was brought back to life. She's free of cancer now, so that's why her mission is just wellness, to help everybody out. And she's like, once I did that, she's like, people make fun of me, but I can talk to people on the other side.
Yep.
And I was like, okay. And she's like, Sarah wanted me to let you know that she's proud of you. And my grandmother named Sarah had just passed away before I moved to Houston. And before I moved here, she passed of colon cancer, which is the irony is crazy. But she was like, because I didn't know if I wanted to leave yet to take this job. And she's like, no, you go and do your thing. Don't worry about your mom. And so I was like, okay. So like I moved 3 weeks after that. And Ms. Joyce was like, she just wanted to let me know that she hears you talking to her every night. And I did. I would be like, oh, Nani, I'm hoping I'm doing the right thing. And she verbatim repeated every single thing I was like saying out loud to my grandmother. And after that, I never felt my grandmother anywhere again near me because we had all these other grandchildren and she went to go tend to them. It was basically like, you don't have to worry about me. And Miss Joyce was like, Sarah just wanted me to let you know that she's not going to worry about you anymore. She's going to move on to some of the other kids and she loves you and you're going to be fine. And I was just like, like I broke down, like I was not expecting that. But she said that when she hit that flatline moment, she got this whole like new sense. So like, how did you know that you had this ability?
it was really weird. I was very, very little, and it was I didn't have the media and movies and all these things to show me anything.
So you had no idea.
I had no
like, what
idea,
was
but
going on.
I would naturally see spirits and hear spirits, and my mother never shamed me for it because a lot of times, what do we always tell our kids? You're talking to an imaginary friend. Now, how do we know that they're not experiencing something? Because we're just programmed to for disbelief.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm sure my mom was a little scared.
Like we're just gonna keep an eye on her,
Right.
Because we don't know.
And my daughter also has the same gift. And I'm kind of jealous though, because she got to talk to my mother's mother and I didn't. So like you said, they appear to who they want to with their message. So I would see spirits, talk to spirits, and I got made fun of a lot. The same thing. They're like, really? And then what was the movie that came out? Like Poltergeist came out. And I went, that's like me.
Oh.
I was like, that's like me. And then I'm sitting there, I was like, we're about the same height, short.
Caroline, yeah.
And so I was like, I understand that. And I started to try to develop it a little bit more. The spirits would just keep talking. And then eventually it got to be too much. Like you said, the woman that would have to help with missing children, that's what started happening to me. I would start to see cases and things that would happen with missing people. And I get emotional, almost crying thinking about it. It's when you start to see things like a dead child and the mother is crying and you don't know where they're at. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening. I'm like, who do I tell? Oh, by the way, the police stations back then were not apt to listen to people who have gifts. Now we're more open to that. If you haven't seen that, I think there's even a woman in Galveston that I met that she works with the FBI as well.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard. So I started praying for my gift to go away. I said, I don't want to see this anymore, God, if I can't use it. If I can't help people, I don't want to see dead babies, murdered people, horrible tragedies. So it kind of went in the background, but never away. And then we start this show, and it's off the charts, and it gets to be overwhelming.
I could only imagine.
Because in public, my husband is going, can we just not for 5 seconds? I know it gets to be frustrating, but because it's constant.
That's what Miss Joy said in
It's
Rosenberg.
constant.
I said, I was like, I know I'm not supposed to tell anybody because she's like, everyone's gonna think I'm some crazy old lady.
Right.
But I was like, is it all the time? She's like, you hear them, but when someone really wants to come through and if I walk into a room, like you walked in, she's like, and immediately this woman was like, listen, I need you to tell her something. She's my girl, and she's like, it's selective, but they're always like around.
It's like they're shouting in your ear. And if I hear a name repeatedly or something repeatedly, I'll stop the person and tell them. And I'll go, does this mean something to you? Am I mistaken? Because I still doubt myself, But it's very overwhelming. But now that we're starting to do this show, just like walking into here, I already hear them talk. And I'm like, this is neat, but at the same time, I'm like, not right now.
Are they happy we're all here? I mean, we're celebrating. We're not.
Right. They're on the fence. They're going, okay, what's going on? More of what's going on. They want to make sure, because they know that things are being renovated here. They want to know, what are we renovating? What are we doing? Because I like that from what I've heard, they're restoring this place to look very original, very authentic. And so they're not trying to make it modern and take away all of the history and the cool stuff. So that's why I said we had to be here. I said, especially historic preservation. So I say go for the history and stay for the mystery. So that's kind of like what we do.